Carlisle's awesome, but they took advantage of a coaching decision that I would imagine will keep Rick Carlisle up at night for days and days in Game 3. Game 3, the Mavs had the Clippers down for the count. It was 28-11. They could do nothing with Luka. The Mavs were getting whatever they wanted. And Carlisle stuck to his regular substitution pattern, took Luka out of the game. Shortly thereafter, it's a 14-0 Clippers.
No. That is what happened, but that's not the issue. What happened was the Clippers made a substitution and they took Ivica Zubac out of the game. That's what happened. Paul George started to get cooking, and then Kawhi Leonard started to get cooking. Then they took him out of the game. That's when they started. That was right when they made the adjustment. Paul George was already cooking. They were already in a rhythm. Then they took Zubac out, and they went small ball. And then they took out Luka. That's what happened.
Run, and it's a game again, and it gave the Clippers is this. When they are playing free of pressure and expectation, they're exceptional. That's how they've been the last few regular seasons. That's how they've been this playoffs. Once everyone wrote them off, they started playing their best basketball. Now, all of a sudden, thanks to these 2 wins, there's pressure on them again. They are the favorites in the series.
No. So you're going to say that the Clippers, they didn't have any pressure. Everybody wrote them off. That's not. Once again, that's what I would say. You guys were saying, you were saying that they had all the pressure already. Then you're saying that they didn't have any pressure on them. The pressure was on the Mavericks. I told you, the Paul George is the one facing pressure. The Clippers have no pressure. They were the laughing stock. They have nothing to lose. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. And these guys are trying to control the narrative. And that's why I say that they're, especially this guy right here. He's a LeBron James and a Clutch Agent sports media asset. He's paid by Clutch Sports and Clutch Sports Media. He's paid by them. All right, because he's always, and you're going to see, I haven't even watched this yet, but you're going to see him try to make an asserted attempt with somehow LeBron James. He's going to tie LeBron James into here somewhere, somehow. Maybe if not right now, later on in this little subject.
Again, it's like, oh, the Lakers look hurt. The Nuggets are questionable. Nobody believes in the Jazz. Oh.
Yeah, so the Lakers are hurt. No, the Phoenix Suns got hurt. Chris Paul got hurt. That's what happened. And then the Lakers started to get going and they started the front run. And it's not that the Mavericks and Luka got hurt. Luka was hurt in Game 3. It's not until that they started that they couldn't front run anymore because they saw that they had a small ball lineup and he saw that they couldn't stop a goddamn soul. Luka and them boys was cooking, but they couldn't really stop a soul. They were just missing shots. They couldn't guard any fucking body. And you see that they're trying to say, oh, everybody's hurt. It's looking like a wide open path. There's going to be, no expectations. But now the expectations is back on them. No, once again, they don't have any expectations. They don't have any pressure. I don't want to say they don't have any expectation, but they don't have any pressure. These guys are a championship contending team. The Mavericks are in trouble. And once again, I told you guys the Clippers are going to give anybody problems. And they're not even fully healthy right now. Serge Ibaka's hurt. Cousins hasn't even touched the floor. Tyronn Lue was being stingy with playing Reggie Jackson the entire time in those first 2 games. But I think that was for spacing or something like that. We saw what Terrence Mann did guarding Luka. We saw what Rondo has done. We saw what Patrick Beverley and Ivica Zubac being out of the game has done with this small ball matchup. You force the Dallas Mavericks to adjust something, and you keep this shit the same until they stop it. The same exact thing that they did in the first 2 games. And they can't stop anybody, which is why they've been blown out in the last 2 games.
The Clippers can do this, which is why I expect them to revert back in very short order to Clippers playoff basketball, which is playing tight, not getting any contribution from the role players, and just relying on Kawhi to be otherworldly, which, to his credit, he has been through 4 games this series. So no, I don't think I wrote them off too early, Brandon. I think they're still in huge trouble, and I think that Luka is going to prove out to be the best player in this series, despite the fact that yesterday he had...
Even though Luka can't get his teams activated just like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can. Even though Luka DONČIĆ is looking down and looking at his neck and grabbing the shoulder when he's hurt. When Kawhi Leonard was hurt, he played through it. He kept his head up. That's the good thing about having a good leader, who you said Kawhi Leonard isn't. And if he's not a leader, he wouldn't have been able to bring his team back from being down 0-2. Heading to Dallas. They lost both those home games. So what are you talking about?
I would argue, his first actual bad playoff game of his career. The only other one that was close was the one where he missed time because he got his ankle stomped on. So no, I don't think I wrote them off too early.
So hold on, Nick. Let me get this right. So you said they need to go take the franchise to Seattle, all right? And they need to blow up everything.
Yes.
Kawhi needs to look at other teams, but you didn't write them off too early?
Yes.
No? You sure?
Well, because I still think they're going to lose the series.
He still thinks they're going to lose the series and that the Clippers are still in trouble, even though they've been balling and clicking. Even though when they haven't been playing great, they still have been in close games and kept it very contested. Help me make this make sense. Someone please help me make this make sense. What is he talking about? How are the Mavericks not in trouble? They can't guard anyone. Thank you, Brandon Marshall.
I still think they're going to lose the series. So if they end up winning the series, then I'm wrong. But I still think they're going to lose the series.
Okay, all right. Well, look, I'm not going to approach this from an emotional standpoint. I just want to talk facts because I've been talking.
Yes, because you do know that we've been getting on your over-emotional ass. I was about to upload a clip of you overreacting. Or what was the conversation that y'all were talking about, man? God damn. Somebody not being a Hall of Famer or something like that, and you just completely lost your shit, man. You were acting just like Kendrick Perkins when he was about to cry. I think I covered that too, when he was like, stop saying that. And this is what we get on, the so-called black man. Nobody cares about your feelings, man. It's an unfortunate series of events, but nobody cares about your feelings. You're expected to still be a man, put your feelings to the side, and figure it out. Which is exactly why we watch sports. It's a microcosm of the human activity and the human condition, which is what Chronicles of Judah says, and that's a fact. When you see guys backed into a corner, their backs against the wall, and they have, once again, when it's harder to beat a team that has nothing to lose. Once again, that's why the Clippers are going to give anyone issues. They have the only person facing pressure is Paul George, and those guys are holding him accountable. And Tyronn Lue is making sure that he has lineups out there. He has a Rondo out there now to make sure that it's conducive to their mindset. Okay, your surrounding has to be in a good area, and you have to be in a good your environment has to be conducive to your mindset. Because if you're in a toxic environment, once again, you're going to be toxic spiritually, mentally. And you see why we have so many over-emotional so-called black men. Because, you know, when you're raised without that masculine principle guiding over the household, even without the masculine principle guiding over the household, if you're not, you know, if you don't have that older brother or the older cousin or the uncle or grandpa or something like that you can gain influence from, then you're going to end up being like this. And I'm glad for you for even saying that. You can't view this from an emotional standpoint, which is what everybody in the media has been doing in the first place. And that's why I said this team is going to give anybody problems. They're not facing any pressure. That's Paul George. This Clippers team has nothing to lose, man.
The Clippers all year. I got the Clippers coming out the West, and I got the Nets coming out the East. So here's my notes from last night. They cooled off. Games 1 and 2, they were great. Games 3 and 4, they weren't there. And who am I talking about? I'm talking about the others. And this is what we talked about Thursday and Friday. You guys asked me this question. Should we be writing off the Clippers? No.
Now, before we let before we let Brandon Marshall finish, look at these numbers right here. Because Luka Doncic was cooking so much and he was so confident, the rest of the team was feeling that shit too. And look at the team numbers that was going on in game 1-2 versus what was going on in 3-4. After Tyronn Lue made an adjustment and made them switch and got them uncomfortable, and they still hasn't figured that out. And look at their numbers. Their efficiency has went down. Their proficiency has went down. Their confidence is shocked. This team is in trouble.
No, because why would you think that a harder what they did the last 2 games, it was nothing, and that was the difference.
Well, I think Game 3, the Sporting Cast did a fair amount. It was those numbers are skewed massively by how terrible they were in Game 4, and that's why.
No, they're not skewed by how massively terrible they were. Their numbers were exactly what they were because they were forced to adjust to what the Clippers are doing. They weren't allowing Luka to just go out there, call screen until they get the matchup. No, that's not the matchup we want. Call another screen, pick and roll. Yeah, that's not the matchup that I want. Call another pick and roll. All right, this is the matchup I want. I'm finna go cook this nigga. They weren't doing that. They can switch out on everybody. Now it's everybody within 5 feet being able to contest, people with quick feet, people with lateral movement that can contest at the rim as well. Now that they have smaller people out there in a small ball lineup that's able to contest, even with Terrence Mann out there, him being a 6'5" guard, him being able to actually guard, him not being able to him not picking up ticky-tacky fouls and, fucking up the rhythm of the ball game for the Clippers. And he's far too small. You don't see them, oh, you're too small, too fucking small. You don't see that anymore. Once again, the confidence of this team is shocked. They can't figure out what to do with the Clippers. The Clippers have them figured out. They can't figure out what to do with the Clippers. This team is in trouble.
That's the old regression to the mean. Through 3 games, the Mavs were shooting 50% from 3, and in Game 4, they shot 17% from 3. I think that 5 of...
Yeah, they shot 17%, which is what Kobe shot in the finals against Detroit Pistons, on the Detroit Pistons, where Tayshaun Prince had his ass clamped up, and allegedly Kobe Bryant was facing double teams. Allegedly, Kobe Bryant and Shaq were facing double teams and triple teams, and they still lost. So there was 2 people guarding Kobe and 3 people guarding Shaq and 1 other person guarding the other 3 cast players for the Lakers, and the Lakers still somehow lost that series. You see what happens when it's only 1 person and the confidence is shocked as well, and you're now orchestrating a team frame of basketball. When Luka Doncic is cooking and things like that, yeah, they're going. But when Luka Doncic is going and the rest of those teams are not going, you're not going to get anything. And that's why the confidence has such a big effect on the game too. Even when the Clippers were losing, you never seen the confidence of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard go down. They continued to take the same amount of shots. They continued to play well and efficient. Kawhi has been playing the best basketball in the playoffs once again. And you see what's happening. You see the resilience of the team, the mental toughness of this team.
30. I think that's about 17%. So they're not a 50% three-point shooting team. They're not a 17% three-point shooting team. They'll be.
They're also not a defending. They're also not a good defending team as well, because they're just a team of forwards and guards, which is a problem.
We're in the middle for the remainder of the series, but I do want to give Ty Lue some credit, because Ty Lue did something smart that now Rick Carlisle must adjust to. He said, Pat Beverly, you're not playing. Beverly, you're done for the series, essentially, and we're going to play small. We're going to play with Marcus Morris, Nick Batum as our biggest people on the court. We're going to play 1 guard with Reggie Jackson, along with our 2 stars in Kawhi and PG. And now the Mavericks must adjust to it. Last night, the Mavs were so tilted, they gave Boban minutes early. They're like, maybe this will force the Clippers to go big. And the Clippers wanted to the Clippers.
And you see the reason why Porzingis, he's playing like a big ass 2 guard. This man is the real playoff P, but no one's talking about Porzingis. No one's talking about this whatsoever. This is the guy who they were lucky that he was hurt last year. But this guy doesn't have any back-to-the-basket game whatsoever. And this is the reason why they had Ivica Zubac out there to try to contest and be a big man and play big man basketball against Porzingis when he has no back-to-the-basketball game whatsoever. So they're just going to cook him. And you see without him on the floor as well, same thing with Reggie Jackson, they're able to just switch out everybody and you see what happens.
Stayed small, so I think Carlisle now has to adjust to the Clippers' adjustment as we now have a best of 3.
So how does that mean that the Clippers are in trouble? I'm confused. How does that mean that the Clippers are going to lose this series?
Clippers to the moon. Clippers to the moon. We know that they are an emotional team, and I am buying all the Clipper stock on Robinhood. I'm long on AMC, GameStop, Dogecoin, and Clippers, and it's an emotional roller coaster. But when it's going hot, it is hot. You know what it reminds me of, Nick? 94 Rockets. Oh, 94 Rockets. Lost 2 in Phoenix. Oh, no, excuse me. They lost 2 at home. And then they went to Phoenix and won 2, ended up winning the series. They just traded off home court advantage at that point. If you were home, you would win. Then they end up winning, going through the Western Conference Final and beating the Knicks for the championship. I'm telling you, we know that the Clippers are so emotional that if they're riding high and feeling free and they've got this big sort of like, this tension of like, oh, we're down. If they can get through this, I think we could see Clippers championship, or at least that's what my Robinhood account says.
I think that the Rockets comparison is a pretty good comparison. But I would say, me personally, I would kind of compare this team a little bit more to the Supersonics. Me personally, because they can, because defensively they'll get all up in you and they can switch out, and they're so athletically gifted too. With Serge Ibaka going to be able to come back and the role players, not being, huge name or not being, really big names, but they're household names, not superstars, but they're household names. So I say that's a good comparison, but I would say more like the Supersonics too, because their guards and their wings can defend so well.
Feeling good about the Clippers.
No, listen, Wilds, listen, I appreciate you going all in on the Clippers. It makes my take a little bit more stronger on the show. It'll be me and you versus Nick. But I can't entertain that anymore. Right. The Clippers have been a good team all year. I just said it.
Agreed.
Top 10 on defense, top 10 on offense. The storyline has been the same. Kawhi and Paul George have been really good this year. And when the others play, the supporting cast, the bench plays well, they win. When they don't, they lose. Game 1 and 2, they weren't there. Reggie Jackson, where are you? Beverly, where are you? Morris, where are you? Games 3 and 4, those guys stepped up. Well, other guys stepped up, as like Nick said. Pat Beverly didn't play. But that is the storyline. So I don't want to entertain that anymore, that this team is an emotional team. These are grown men. These are professional basketball players. They understand what they need to work on. They go in the gym, they work on it. They get better, they don't. So what we've seen all year is them take strides and getting better, and Kawhi answering the bell. He's the leader now. He's playing back-to-back. So this whole narrative that this team is an emotional team, no, they're playing basketball. They lost the first 2, they won the next 2, and now they're going to keep going.
They're just like me, Brandon. No, they're just, when we're high, we're high, and when we're low, we're low.
You see what she says? And that's why I said what I said earlier about, being, over emotional. You have to be able to see that and be able to see that trait as well if you do have that. Because once again, how she said, it's just like me, because being over emotional is a woman's trait. In order for the man and the woman to be able to come together, the man has to be 3-dimensional. You have to have the mental game on lock. So once you have the mental game on lock, you have control over your emotions. Well, my bad. Once you have control over your emotions, you'll have the mental game on lock. You understand? And, and the woman is over emotional by nature. And you see how she attests to this.
I'm just like the Clippers, Brandon. I totally understand it. All right, let's take a pause. Nick's got to hand out a couple.
So that's all we got right here. Let's see what we got going on next episode. Peace.